Hey VC. So I've been working on a couple of other videos, fixing up some vintage gear that I picked up, and while I'm sitting here waiting for parts, I figured I would get back to one of the things I mentioned in my Final Text 2020 video, and that's how to discover new music. 2019 was a particularly great year for me. I found all kinds of new artists and bands that I didn't know existed. Hell, I even found a genre I didn't even know existed that has really opened up my eyes. So I thought I would take this video and this opportunity. I'm going to break this up. The first half is going to be what I use to find new music, and then in the second half I'll go through and I'll do some of the stuff that I found. And so everyone kind of gets to that point in their collecting journey, and they've now got all of their favorite albums. They've got all the bands that they wanted to get, and they're not sure where to look next. So a couple of the things that I wound up doing, I decided that I needed to make a concerted effort on how to systematically go through and find different things. I was doing the dollar bin thing at the record store. I take $5, pull out 5 albums I'd never heard of before, and that's a thing that I still do and will probably always still do, just to randomly pick something. But that's not very effective in finding good new music. One of the things that I came across is this book right here, The Best Music You've Never Heard. It's small. It only cost me, I think, $5 shipped. You can find them anywhere, Amazon, or just Google it. You'll find a copy of that. And, that added on a couple of dozen new artists that I didn't know about, and seriously increased the size of my Discogs want list. But I've come across a couple of different things on there. I wouldn't say I found anything that's really wowed me, but it puts into context some of the other bands that I do know from those particular years, where they had some competition that I wasn't aware of that kind of got squashed by the record labels and disappeared into obscurity. So there's a lot of good stuff there. The other thing, talking about dollar bins and stuff, I strongly encourage you, and I can't tell you this enough, your local record store. If you have a favorite record store that you go to on a regular basis, don't just go there, buy stuff, pay, and walk out. Have some conversations with the staff. Get to know them. Let them know when you bring records up. Like, for instance, the last time I was at my record store, I finally picked up a copy of Pink Floyd's The Final Cut. Oh, I collect Pink Floyd. I'm big in Pink Floyd, but that particular album I've never been overly interested in getting. But they had a really nice copy. I said, well, I might as well plug that hole. And I use that to bring up a conversation of bootlegs and how I'm looking for Pink Floyd bootlegs, so that they know next time they come across some that I'm looking for that kind of stuff. They'll get a feel for what it is that you're looking for, what you collect and everything, and they'll start setting things aside for you. Ask them for suggestions once in a while. If you go in and you're looking for something, you don't find anything in the new arrivals, just go up and say, hey, there's nothing really here for me, but I'm really looking for something new and different. I have a weak spot in my knowledge. For me, it's the late 90s and early 2000s. I don't know that music, so I'd say, hey, you got anything along those lines that's kind of sitting here? Any new releases that I wouldn't know about? And 9 times out of 10, they'll have something, and I'll pick it up and take it home. If I don't like it, I can just throw it up on Discogs for sale, give it to a friend, or just return it to the store. Not a big deal. But that's proven to be very fruitful. Outside of that, I'm a Redditor. I spend way too much time on Reddit. In fact, some of you may be here from my Reddit comments. But two subreddits that I hang out with on a regular basis. The first is our Vinyl, and it's pretty much record collecting gear, everything that you would possibly want. And it gets a little Instagrammy at times. People just posting pictures of their collection or basic albums. It's kind of a joke. Everyone puts Dark Side of the Moon up and the basics, things like that. But there are some quality posts of people who have some more knowledge of different things than you do, and they'll put up an album that they happen to find that they were looking for, explain the history of the band and what's so good about the album. Sometimes they'll do comparisons of different pressings and why you should be looking for this and avoid that kind of stuff. So it's really good in expanding your knowledge. And the weekly questions thread is where you can go. Post any questions. If you're having problems with your gear, or you're looking to upgrade, or if you have a question about identifying an album or questioning different pressings or just in general anything, there's tons of people there to help you out. I'm on there on a daily basis to help people out and answer questions. The other subreddit that I go to, and I will caution you, this one is a little bit dangerous, is the vinyl deals. A couple of people have set up some bots that have an API into Amazon and Walmart and some other places. They use Camel to do price comparisons, and it'll automatically post links when things go on sale. There's another bot that you can tap into to tell it to notify you whenever a particular artist that you're looking for goes on sale, things along those lines. But what you'll find, most people don't comment very much, so if you come across one that's got a bunch of comments, I just click on it. And if inside of that there's a bunch of people saying, oh my god, this is a great album, and someone somewhere along the line says, hey, don't even think about it, this is a great price, this is a fantastic album, just buy it. And you know what, 9 times out of 10, I will. I'll just buy it. Because here's some band that I don't know about, I've never heard about, or it's an album from a band I do know about, then I haven't heard that album. Bunch of people recommending it, and it's on sale for its lowest price that it's been in the last 5 years. So why not? So I go ahead and I'll just order it up. Now that doesn't happen on a daily basis, maybe once a month or something, one of those kind of pops up. But it's a really good way of going through and finding stuff. And I'm on there every day anyways, because I'm looking for deals. I never pay full retail price for anything. So that's a good spot. But by and large, the best place to find everything is on YouTube. There's the obvious plug for the VC community, and I don't have to explain that because you're already here in the VC community, so you know what this is all about. But one of the biggest ones that I suggest to everyone, Amoeba Records has been doing this series for about 8 years now. They typically will release one a week, give or take, so there's literally hundreds of videos in their library, and it's called What's in My Bag. And occasionally they'll have comedians or actors or people like that come through, but by and large it's all musicians and bands and artists that come through. And they'll go out and they'll shop around the store, and then at the end of their shopping session they'll go in the back and they'll sit down on the couch, do an interview, and they'll go through all of the different things that they came across while they're there. And they'll explain, they're like, you know, this is one of the albums that I listened to as a kid, or this is one of the albums that influenced us as a band, or you know, the last time around, so-and-so over here, our drummer, picked up this album and he played it relentlessly on our last tour. We heard it constantly, and we decided we liked it. And this new album we're coming out with has been influenced by that, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's really fascinating to see what your favorite artists are, artists that you already like, what they like. And I got to tell you, this is a huge, huge resource. You will definitely expand your music knowledge listening to that. Outside of the Amoeba Records ones, there's a couple of other smaller ones that are out there. There's one out of Australia called Digging in the Crates, which is kind of the same thing. They go with an artist into a store and just kind of wander around, and they'll randomly pull different albums out that catches their eye. Great insight into the artist, what their thought processes are, and what they do. But I got to tell you, I'm saving the best for last. And that's something I came across this past year. And that's this YouTube sub-community of reaction videos. Now, asterisk warning up front, there's a ton of garbage within this community. Somebody figured out that this is an easy way to get clicks, and there's a lot of people out there just trying to grab things. They're very fake in their reactions. They're always over the top. They always pause in the wrong places. They react to the wrong things. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're not musicians. I originally started down the path because I was curious to know what younger generations thought of music that I grew up with. You know, the Generation Zs, maybe some of the young millennials who had gone through and had never listened to my music. And for them to hear it for the first time and see what they think about it. And it kind of puts things into perspective for me, where was that really a good song, or do I like it simply because it played on the radio every hour during an entire summer back when I was in high school? You know what I mean? So it's interesting to put that into perspective. But the biggest thing is, when you find the good ones, when you dig through and you find the good ones, and you listen to their stories and you figure out what it's all about. You know, you'll have people who perhaps grew up in a certain culture and got locked into a certain genre. You know, there's this one couple that does reactions, and she is a classically trained musician, and while she was growing up, her parents basically banned all rock and roll, that she was only allowed to listen to classical music. And eventually, as a young adult, she got burned out on it. Then she started having kids and doing other things and just dropped music entirely. But now that she's older and the kids are grown and gone, her new husband has been introducing her to all kinds of new music. And she's discovering all of this stuff. You know, she's in her 40s, and she's hearing music that she's never ever heard before, stuff that's very common to everyone else. Then you have other people who basically have only listened to hip hop, or they've only listened to metal, or whatever the case may be. But what the key is that they listen to their subscribers. The subscribers will make recommendations and kind of walk them down this path towards discovery of new music. And they're smart enough to listen to these people. They're not doing it for clicks. They're not doing it for subscribers. They're doing it for their own personal music journey. And they're listening to people as they go along, and you know, give credit to people who are really giving them good suggestions. And they're allowing themselves to go along and discover all this new music. And that's kind of what I've done. I've kind of tuned into a couple of these channels, and I've gone through their process, and I've allowed their subscribers to walk me through a journey of discovery. And this, I highly recommend, highly recommend you to do this. It's a massive source for finding new music. Tons of things. So anything outside of that, I mean, if you have other sources that you use that work particularly well for you, or if you have favorite channels for reactions or VC community or something, put it down in the comments. Let me know. I'll definitely be checking up on this video because I'm curious myself. I'm looking for new sources. And I'll go through and I'll put in a comment with some of my favorites, some of the people that I think you should check out. But to go through, so I had mentioned digging in the crates as one of the videos, like Amoeba Records, What's in My Bag, and I happened to catch a particular video. I was real bored and I wasn't interested in this particular band. I didn't even know who they were, but it was late at night and I couldn't sleep. And as they were walking through the store, they pulled out Massive Attack's Mezzanine, and they all stopped and just were like staring at this record cover and had this look of reverence on their face. And they said, this has been absolutely the largest influence on our band. So I looked them up and I heard a couple of their songs, and then I proceeded to go out and buy their album. This is a band out of Australia called Boosika. And if you're into trip hop, like I say, Massive Attack Mezzanine being the, you know, sort of iconic album of that genre, these guys are real good. You will love this album if you like Massive Attack. I came across a classic that I had heard about. This actually came out of the book that I had showed earlier. This is a late 1960s. This came out in 1969, out of Memphis, Nashville. It's an all-girl garage rock band. They've only released this one album, and then they all just kind of disappeared into obscurity. It didn't sell particularly well. This particular one, you know, it's on sale, 95 cents. Never sold. So it's now in my possession, and I gotta tell you, if you like late 60s garage rock, I guarantee you've come across very few, if any, all-female bands, and it lends a different tone to it. It lends a different quality to it from other garage rock bands, and I highly recommend giving that one a listen. Other stuff, I came across this one through React channels, and this was my find of 2019 that I had in my vinyl tags. This is the Who band, H-U. They are a Mongolian folk metal band. I wouldn't say this has wowed me, but this has opened me up to a completely different brand of music that I had never heard before. It's definitely very good. It's not, oh my god, good, but it's fantastic. It's a great listen. They use traditional instrumentals. The music is definitely heavier. I wouldn't necessarily say it's metal, but it's definitely heavier rock. It being Mongolian, don't be afraid of that. I mean, this isn't like totally off the wall and completely obscure. You know, if you listen to rock, I guarantee you'll like this. But definitely worth watching, definitely something unique. One of the other bands, and if you get into the React channels, you're going to find this one everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. It has a massive shock value. So everyone gets suggested this at some point. And that's a band I found called Jinjer. And Jinjer is out of the Ukraine. They are a progressive metal band. And I will tell you, all of the people in that band are extremely talented. The bass and the drums are phenomenal. But Tatiana, the lead singer, is uniquely talented. Well, I wouldn't say unique. There are a couple of others like her, but she does it better than anyone else by a long shot. And this very quickly became one of my very favorite bands. In fact, I caught them at a live show here in Tampa. They passed through on their recent tour, and I caught them. But Jinjer's Pices, their live sessions video, definitely worth checking out. This is another one of those, don't look it up, just listen to it. You'll be happier that you didn't know about anything going into it. But yeah, Tatiana, a lot of their music is, well, I'll let you wander down that rabbit hole. Then I came across basically an entire genre. Symphonic metal is not something that was in my vernacular for a long time, and I really didn't know it existed. You know, I came across bands like Avalon. I came across ones like this one, Within Temptation. Check out their music video for And We Run. Absolutely fantastic. Bunch of other ones. Now, I've never been big into metal, but going through the React videos on some of my favorite reaction channels, I was walked through different things and discovered that metal is much more wide and varied than I ever thought it was. And I gained an appreciation for it that I never could and never did back in the 1980s. Ever since the 1980s, I just kind of wrote it off. You know, Judas Priest was okay. I could handle Judas Priest. Iron Maiden, I never understood the attraction to Iron Maiden. In fact, I still don't. Don't hate me for that. You know, I like Metallica and stuff, but that's a little more mainstream stuff. Some of the other things that aren't mainstream, you know, I tried my hand at Five Finger Death Punch and some of the other stuff that's going around, and it was okay, but it didn't wow me, and I didn't understand it. But then I came across symphonic metal, and it's all changed for me. And now, you know, my biggest thing that I found, without a doubt, was this band right here. And for those in the know, yes, this is a little cliche, but I came across Nightwish and was just immediately hooked on this band. I mean, just wound up going out and just buying all of their stuff. They've been around since the mid-90s. I had no idea they existed. Your starting point for this band, just to give you an idea of what they're capable of, is of course the ubiquitous, and I know, again, this is cliche for those in the know, and that's a live video from their Waken 2013 concert. Make sure it's the Waken 2013, because there's more than one official video. Waken 2013, Nightwish, Ghost Love Score. Absolutely amazing. The lead singer is absolutely going to blow your mind. She is, in my humble opinion, the best female vocalist, the strongest voice, the most versatile in existence right now. Anybody currently producing. I'm not going to make an argument for greatest of all time, but she is the best female vocalist currently in production. And then she went off and did one of her own things. I showed this in my vinyl tags as well. This was my top album. And Floor Jansen is absolutely amazing. Go down that rabbit hole. Go down the Nightwish rabbit hole. There's a ton of good music. And then, of course, you have Tarja and everything else. I'm not going to get into all the details. One of the other things that I found through the reaction videos that actually absolutely blew my socks off and wound up me going down a rabbit hole. Unfortunately, I don't have the album because it's caught in custom someplace. And that's Beth Hart. Beth Hart with Joe Bonamassa, especially. Look up, what's the name of that? I'll Take Care of You. Beth Hart with Joe Bonamassa. That was live in Amsterdam, I believe. He's an interesting guy. He opened up for B.B. King when he was 13 years old. Was kind of a child prodigy and is the best-selling blues guitarist currently, well, actually ever. And she has a very checkered history. Actually started in the 1990s on Ed McMahon's Star Search and won for Best Female Vocalist. And had a 15 Minutes of Fame, a minor hit in the late 90s on her second album, and then disappeared. She was undiagnosed bipolar and unfortunately got caught up into drugs and alcohol and everything. But she's since cleaned up her act and is now touring all over Europe and occasionally comes to the United States too. The combination of those two, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. She is one of the best blues singers that I've ever heard, without a doubt. So I mean, there's probably a half a dozen more that I could go through, but I think that gives you a good start. I've given you at least 3 rabbit holes to start going through. And as I come across more, maybe I'll do a second video to this to follow up with some more music for you to listen to. But for now, I'm going to cut this off because it's already getting ridiculously long. And I'm going to check my front porch to see if my parts showed up so that I can finish up. I'm going through and replacing the capacitors and the tweeter diaphragms on my Klipsch speakers. And I've also got a Technics SL1300 that I picked up that I'm going through and cleaning up, though that probably won't be a video because, to be honest, I think I scored on that one. I got one little tiny part that has to come in, then I can give it a full test, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So, until next time, take care, and I'll see you on the flip side.